Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. Today I got a great video for you. We're going to be replacing a ceiling fan. I know that might seem a little bit daunting, but if you've got some simple hand tools and you can follow some instructions, you can do this yourself and save yourself a bunch of money. This video I'm going to show you how to disassemble your old fan, how to put together your new fan and install it, and I'll show you how to use the features that this fan offers. Also, speaking of saving money, today's sponsor, ComiLED, is offering a 10% off coupon if you use the code on their website. I will leave all of that information in the description. Okay, so first things first, we're going to need to turn off the power up here to our fan and start the disassembly process. All right, so I'm going to run downstairs now to my basement and turn off the power at the breaker, and then we'll get started. All right, we got the power shut off now here. Everything is starting to slow down. We're going to disassemble this whole thing and take it all apart, and we'll get our new one all set up and installed, and we'll be ready to go. All right, so now that I got the cap down here, I'm going to start undoing all the wiring. That way we could take everything apart at the base and let this down. Essentially, the disassembly is very quick and easy, so let's get that done, and we'll take this whole thing apart. I need both hands, so I'm going to put the camera down. I'm going to take all these wire nuts off and then take this little remote control piece out through the top, and then we'll be able to take the ball directly out of there, and I'll show you what it looks like at the end. Alright, you can see I've gotten all the wires and everything separated now, so I'm going to pull the controller out. So now the controller is completely removed, and you can see that I can now separate the wires coming out of the ceiling. I'll put them over on this side from the wires that are going down to the fan. And essentially what I'll be able to do now is grab this stand, or grab this stem, and pull that ball up over the top of this thing that's holding it into place, and we'll be able to put it on the ground, and essentially the disassembly is done. So let's do that. There we go. And now you can see that I've gotten the piece in my hand, and I can put it down onto the ground. Okay, so we've got our old fan now down on the ground. It's kind of dusty because it's been up here for 15 years. So this fan is probably 15, maybe 20 pounds, so you do need to be able to lift this thing two-handed to get that ball up over the top and out of that little bracket. And the ball has to come out of this one spot right here. We'll leave those wires up out of the way, and then we'll take this bracket down and put the new one on, and then we'll get the new installed. All right, so we're going to get this out of the box and we're going to set it all up so that way we can take a look at our new fan, and then we'll start the installation process. All right, let me take all the things out here. I'll lay them out on the floor. That way we have a quick look and see what we've got inside, and then we'll start putting things together. All right, so we now have everything out of the box and laid out here in front. It comes with a nice set of instructions. You have your remote as well as the transceiver. You've got a kit here that will help you to balance the fan in case anything's out of balance. This is the motor for the fan itself. You have a nice LED panel with a cover, two options for down rods. One of them is about 1 foot long and the other one is about 6 inches. Then this is the mount that will go up into the ceiling, and then this is the cover that helps to hide all of the wiring and everything. Now you also have blades here. I've set one aside. Now the one that I purchased is a nickel finish, and then it has reversible fan blade options. One of them is this kind of gray wood pattern, and then the other side is like a silvery paint. So you've got two options if you wanted to run one side by side. The color that I'll be using is the gray toned wood pattern, so it'll look like this, and it'll sit kind of two-toned against the nickel finish. Should look really nice when it's all installed and put together. Everything came nicely boxed in this styrofoam, so no damage, so everything looks great, nicely packaged, so thank you for that. Alright, so let's look at the instructions really quick. Again, like I mentioned, you can do this yourself. It's not very difficult. As long as you can follow a set of instructions, you should be good to go. It gives you a list of the types of things you might need from a tools perspective, and then a list of what the contents are, as well as the start of the instructions and how to put everything together all the way through to the end when you're installing it on the ceiling. So the first thing we're going to be doing is selecting a rod. I'm going to be using the 1 foot rod on mine, and then we'll attach it now to the motor. We'll run all the wiring up through, and then we'll get the vanity cover put on. That way it hides all of the wiring and everything like that. and I'll show you the whole process together here while I film it, and then we'll get the whole thing assembled and put it up in the ceiling. So on one end of the rod you have the holes where the dowel will go through, and on the other side you have the holes for the dowel, but also this spot where the set screw will go in. This is the area, or this is the side that you're going to put that ball on. So this is shipped with all of the screws that hold the blades into place. So we're going to undo all of these and get ready to put the rod in. Alright, now I got all the screws removed. I got them set off to the side over here. We're going to turn the motor over and start to get the wiring put up through the rod. Now I know that this is going to be the top, so I'm going to put the wires in through the bottom here. This is actually pretty handy too. This is a little safety cord. This will help to keep this thing from falling down, so we'll put this up through as well. I might actually have to take that screw off to get it to go in. Alright, so down here you can see there are a couple of set screws, and then this is where the pin will go through to hold this rod into place. So we're going to back these screws out just a little bit. Alright, and that allows us to get this down into place. Now we can take this and put it in through there and hold it and tighten everything down. Alright, there we go. Alright, so then you put on the flat washer, the pinch washer, and then the nut, and then you'll put this cotter pin on the back side. Alright, so this side's an 8 and this side's a 10. We'll go ahead and tighten this down now. Alright, and then put in our pin. And that's good. That should hold that there. Now we're going to tighten these screws, and that should set this rod perfectly vertical. Alright, now the rod's in there nice and steady, and we should be good to go with the next step. Alright, so the next part we're going to do is get these covers on in place. So we're going to slip these over top of the wires and get them pushed down like that, so it looks nice and finished. Then you're going to do the same thing with this cover, except it's going to go facing this way because it's going to face up against the ceiling and cover all the wiring. Alright, last thing we're going to do is get this ball fixed back into place, and then that way we'll be ready to do our final bit of assembly here. Okay, so now we got this in place. We'll put this set pin in here. We'll slide this up, and then there's one last screw that will go right here that holds everything into place. Now we're going to be ready to go hang this from the ceiling. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is get this bracket installed onto the ceiling here. You also get a bag of hardware that comes with it to mount this up to the ceiling, so let's go take a look and make sure that we're ready to go. Alright, so you can see we still have our old bracket installed here. So what you need to make sure you have before you do any of this, obviously if you're like me and you're just replacing an old ceiling fan, you know that this is good. But you need to make sure that you have a ceiling fan rated junction box, which is usually drilled into one of the joists above. So you need to make sure you have one of those before you go in and install this. So since I know this one's already good on mine, I'm going to take out the old bracket and then I'll put the new one in. But I need both hands to do that, so I'll come back after that's finished and I'll show you how we get started. Alright, I got the new one installed now. You can see the bracket looks very similar, but it's different. Alright, so I got the screws up in here now. This holds everything into place. Our wiring is set to the side, so that way we can get the new controller put up in here as well as hang the new fan. So that's the next step. Let's go ahead and grab that and we'll get up here and put everything together. All right, so hopefully you can see this, but there's a little groove cut into that ball, and that goes into the back side of this. We're going to put it up in here and set it into place, and that will make it nice and straight and tidy. What we're going to do here is get all of our wires put over to the side. Now we got our controller here. We're going to go put this in. What's really cool about this is it's got these plugs, so you don't have to put those in until the very end, which makes wiring this up a lot simpler. Very cool. You're going to be matching up the white wires together and then capping them, and then you're going to put the black wires together and cap them. And then you're going to put the two green wires together with the ground, which is just a bare copper, and then you're going to cap those together. And then you'll take the 3-prong clip and plug it in, and the 2-prong clip and plug it in, and then you'll be set. The next thing you're going to do, loosen 2 screws, so that way you can put the base plate in to cover up all the wires and make it look nice and tidy. Alright, this next part right here is where we start to install all the fan blades. We're going to insert them through those slots and hold them into place, and then put all the screws in. There are 7 fan blades, so I'm not going to film this whole thing since it will take a while. So we'll insert all the fan blades and we'll pick it up when we're all done. Alright everybody, we are on the home stretch now. The only thing that we've got to do is to get the LED panel put on. All 7 of the blades are now on. They look great. I really like the way that that gray wood pattern looks next to the nickel. So let me show you what we're doing next. There are 3 little screws, 1, 2, 3. We're going to loosen those and take that out, and then the LED panel will fit right up on top of there. We'll plug everything in. There's a little plug right here, and that will be the end. We'll put a last little cap on there. We'll turn the power back on and do a quick check. All right, everything's finished now. We're going to go turn the breaker back on and set up the remote and get everything ready to go, and we'll make sure it doesn't wobble. All right, our last step now is to get the batteries put in. So on the instructions here, in order to program the remote, you're going to turn on the power, and then within 10 seconds you're going to press and hold the buttons 1 and 2 for roughly 3 seconds, and then it should beep twice. So you're going to push and hold these 2 buttons once I turn the power on. And yeah, let's do that and we'll see what happens. First turned on, we're going to press and hold buttons 1 and 2. Alright, I don't know if you heard that or not. It was actually pretty faint, but it just beeped and turned itself on. There we go. And 6, we'll put it on top speed. That's awesome. Yeah, it looks perfectly stable straight out of the box. That's awesome. We'll go ahead and turn it off. Turn the light on. Whoa, there we go. That's bright. Wow, that's a lot brighter than I expected. Let me turn that down a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to get everything cleaned up around, put all the tools away, and then I'll show you how everything works. Alright, so here's an up close of it installed. The nickel color really looks nice. Here's a finish of what the blades look like with that kind of gray wood grain pattern. Fan looks really nice in a big space. I think this fan fits my master bedroom a lot better than the other one. So looking at the remote, you have 6 different speed options. You can see those here reflected at the very top in the dial pattern, speeds 1 through 6. And then right here in the middle is the power button that will turn the fan off. And then you've got a light switch here which turns the light on and off. If you click it in successive patterns, it will turn and change the color. So we'll show you that in just a second. This button right here reverses. This is actually a really handy feature that in the winter, when you want the direction to change and go in reverse, you just click a button. You don't have to climb up a ladder and flip a switch on the fan anymore, which is really handy. These minus and plus buttons that you see here, these change the brightness of the light. And then down at the bottom you have a 1, 3, or 6 hour delay. So what you get from that is you can hit the little 3-hour button and the fan will run for 3 hours and it will turn itself off. So if you leave the house for the day or whatever, you can, or even do it at night, that kind of thing. It's pretty handy to have a little timer to turn things off. All right, so we'll turn the fan on now. What you'll see here is just starting. I'll put it on 3 to start. And as you notice, it turns itself. All right, so the fan's running now. It's on level 3. What you saw at the very beginning was the fan speed. You saw the fan actually rotate backwards a little bit before it started forwards. That's actually completely normal on these new DC motor fans. It's just actually looking for a position on a sensor, and then when it finds the position, it starts to run the motor. So if yours ticks backwards for just a quick second, that's what's happening there. All right, so we'll knock the speed up now to a 6. And when you put this thing on 6, it really moves a lot of air. It makes my room a lot cooler at night. And despite the fact that it's moving a lot more air and it's on a faster fan speed, it's actually very quiet. All right, we'll turn the light on now with the light button. This light is really bright. In my master bedroom, I have recessed lighting, and this thing is almost as bright as the 4 recessed lights I have in the ceiling. This puts out a tremendous amount of light for what you get. It has 3 different color options. You get the color options by pressing the light button, so I'll push it here. It'll turn it off. And if you push it again on, it changes the color. So off and then on, and then off and then on. So you see the 3 different color patterns there by doing that. Now if you let it sit for more than, I think it's about 5 seconds. So if I turn this off and I let it count for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I turn the light back on, it keeps the same color as the time that I turned it off. Again, the minus and plus buttons, they turn the brightness up and down. And you can see it turning the brightness up and down now. Overall, really nice fan. I'm very pleased with this. Thanks again to ComiLED for sponsoring the video. You can save yourself 10% by using the coupon down below, as well as the link. I'll put all of that in the description so you can go and save yourself some money by picking up a fan from them. Thanks for watching. See you next time.